Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's August 18th, 2020, and recently I've been posting a fair number of videos on ponds since we're in the midst of our most severe drought that we've experienced here on site. Now, we've had several droughts over the last few years, and that has had detrimental effects on the ponds. And today what I thought I'd do, in a couple of moments, I'll put my helmet cam on and we'll go on out to Pond 5. Now, I've been posting videos about sealing Pond 5 for the last couple of years, and I've discussed in some of those videos why I'm not using bentonite and the steps that I've taken over time. The short answer for bentonite, with the shipping costs and the volume that I need and getting the pond adequately dry so that it could be either surface sand mixed in with the bentonite and all, it would be cost prohibitive. It would be at least $8,000 for me to do that, but it could be as much as twice as much as that. And so I've tried to approach this the way that when I dissect something like the beaver ponds and all, I look at the sediments that form, that even though it's all sand down in that area where the beaver ponds are, the sediment on top of that seals it off, at least adequately enough so that it's very minimal drainage. Now, over the last 3 years, I've been using paper products, cardboard, weeds, and excess garden produce at the end of the season, and some leaves and some wood chips to seal the pond. Now, we put this pond in probably 14 years ago. I really can't remember exactly. This was our third pond we put on the property, and it's just really bony gravel and hit a really thick gravel vein when almost a 30-ton excavator was digging there to put it in. And so it always leaked. In the first year, come mid-July, it was empty. And one of the things we did when we're putting in other ponds, we took some of the fill from the other ponds, which really had some dirt mixed in with some more sandy material and gravel, and we widened the area, which is the access road where the living fence is alongside of the pond, and made it a more tapered slope going down in from the west side of the pond. And we'll be going over there in just a couple of minutes. That did help to slow the pond leakage some. No longer could we look over the stone wall, and that's before all the living fence was as mature as it is, and see the water flowing out on our neighbor's property. And he had actually put in tiles to try and drain the area so that he could continue to farm. Now, he can farm no problem now. Each year for the last 3 years, we've been using cardboard and paper products, except for last year. Last year I was too busy working with the greenhouse, so I didn't put anything down. But the pond never drained completely last year, even though we had some drought periods. We had one flooding event in July, which recharged the pond, and it never got very low at all. So I was pretty happy that the sediment breakdown products from the cardboard, paper, and all the plant materials before really did create enough sediment, but the walls of the pond still leak some. There's nothing visible on the outside of the ponds or in the neighbor's property, but that western wall where the access road is was originally all stone wall. So there's big bulky stones all in that area, similar to the stones that you've seen me digging out recently for patching, creating the access road by the beaver dam. So lots of big, things from bigger than me to stones this size. So I guess what I want to share with you today is I had gotten to the point where I had drained the pond 5. We went and took a water pump down there about 4 days ago, I think it was. Now, before that, I went down, I got the snappers out. I went ahead and did some flail mowing. I'll show that area. I went ahead and cleaned off most of the willows, which no longer were growing at the base of the island in the pond, and pulled all those out with the excavator from a distance from up on the roadway. I used long straps and tow equipment along with a grubber chain and a grubber grabber. I think I've done videos on both of those. So I pulled all of the rooted dead vegetable matter, trees and all, and I pruned the 2 pussy willows on the top of the island as well, so that I could see a little bit better around. And my goal was, as soon as the pond was dry, to take that sediment in the base of the pond, which is definitely waterproof, to start packing that up on the sides. And I got part of that done, but without belaboring this anymore, I'm going to put the helmet cam on and we'll go down and take a look at what I'm talking about. Here we go. Okay, we're heading down to the pond right over here. This is pond 5, right over in this area. This is a swale that actually came in handy this morning. So we got 1.1 inches of rain this morning at about 4 a.m. And 50% of that rain came down rapidly as a pretty big downpour, which was awesome, because that allowed some of the runoff from the buildings and from those areas there to work their way around the serpentine swale here and dump more water than had we not had a downpour. If we just had some gradual rain come over a longer period of time, the pond would have had a significantly less accumulation of water in here. But because it collected surface from way up the property, up the driveway, that actually deposited quite a bit down here. Now, the first thing I would say is much of what we see up here with the Rosa Sharon plants and the grasses that are here, and I've cut off a lot of the grasses because I've been working here, wouldn't be visible because all of the weeds and materials, even underneath this soil here, had all grown up. I'm sorry about the wind down in here, but it had all grown up to be about 5-6 feet high. So I came down here, picked the rocks up from this bank, and brought the Berta flail mower powered by the 749 BCS tractor down here and mowed all of this down, picked up the rest of the rocks that were here. And the upper part of the pond still had quite a bit of wood chips up in this area that hadn't broken down so much, and the weeds were growing up in between those. And then down here, when we get to about this level right here, the pond is pretty much watertight. It wasn't leaking at all. So what I elected to do was I went over there first, over to this side, the shallower end of the pond, and I was able to bring the mini excavator. So the gradual slope, even though it's very steep, it can be real dangerous using a mini excavator on a section of property like this. So you have to keep it always facing down and have the blade in front of you. And I worked my way down in here, and that's all sediment right there. That's an area where there's no sediment. Let me go over there. So this is where there was sediment. There are some rocks that came down since then. And this is an area that I haven't patched yet. So you can see this is all gravel with lots of stone here. So these are areas that can leak. Now they leak into the almond food forest just on the other side of this bank here. But this area down here, all of this material, I was able to come down and grab a lot of it, put it up on the wall, and start packing it in. This is some of the sand at the base of it, and I thought I had gone a little bit too deep, but and I waited until this side was no longer any visible water, but it was real spongy. A good place. I could not work, so I was able to park with my excavator blade right about here and reach with the excavator bucket and dig to about here, because had I gone another foot further down here, I would have lost the excavator. It was so soft. I wanted to wait until it was completely dry. And since we were having such a record-breaking drought this season, now you may be able to see some of the cracks. The moisture made it in between these cracks, and it's actually soft here. But there's a good foot of sediment material here that I can take out and finish packing these walls if we hadn't had this rain today. So what I did do, and you can see little bits of plastic still here from the cardboard, but the cardboard had all broken down, and the plastic's from the tape on the cardboard that I didn't get it all off. So once we got down to a point where the pond was much lower than what it is right now, we brought the water pump down. I got a small 110 electric 110 volt but basically like a sump pump, but it's not a sump pump. It's one for that people borrowed from me for when their houses flood. They use that to clean out their basements. And so I put that inside of one of our holy buckets when it was 1/4 the size it is here, and pumped all the water out. We had to bring the ducks inside because the foxes came and got one of the ducks because the pond wasn't big enough to protect the ducks. But I was able to grab a lot of that material and work its way up these banks here to start to seal the banks. You could see it was so dry that as the moisture content decreased in this sediment, it all cracked and looked like desert terrain. And I was hoping for this to get a little more solid. So there's pockets here, here, and right over here that I was able to dig a lot of the material out. One of the places that I think we still are having some leaks are right over in this area here. After I put in that drainage swale 2 years ago, I put all these stones in, but all of the soil had washed away and come down here into the pond. So I was forced to use some of the broke down products of the wood chip material, which is not completely broken down. It is close to it, but not 100%. So you could still see there's fibrous material in here as opposed to the sediment there. So this is the wood chip material here that's almost completely broken down, but that's the part that was broken down from all the cardboard and vegetable matter and all. So this I fear will probably still leak some. And my goal was, after this pond was a little bit drier, to work, to get it, if I could get it really dry, I could get enough material out of this base where it is and pack all the walls and around the island as well. And I think I'd have at least a good 8 foot of permanently sealed, well, as much as, I don't want to say permanently sealed, but very sealed water pond dam walls. This sediment, the rate of loss of water from these lower areas is just due to evaporation. There's no leakage detectable. So it evaporates at the same rate that you would have watch the water in your bucket go down. So that I'm happy with. Not that I'm happy with the evaporation, but that signifies that the pond sealing has been working extremely well with the paper products. One of the drawbacks, if I don't get all the tape off, you'll see little bits of tape in here. But that hasn't been much of an issue. Where the wood chips are, that's going to take more time for those materials to break down. Now the wood chips I put over the surface of the cardboard breaks down, but the wood chips take longer to break down. I don't think I need to put more paper products in here at this point. So now we got to see what the weather's going to do over the next few weeks, because if it looks like it's going to be dry, then I'd like to pump the rest of this out, give it a good 10 days of solar radiation on the soil to help dry it out and get it really cracked up like you saw down below. And that way I could get down here with the excavator without the risk of losing it. If I go down into that area, even if I pump all the water out, I'll need to call my friend and bring in a great big excavator to be able to pull my excavator out. And it won't be easy pulling it out because it'll be sunken right down in that material. I've done it before in a different location where I was able to get out, which wasn't as soft as the bases of these pond areas. So that's frustrating. But one other thing I'll say is, as I mentioned in my initial opening here, this is all stone wall all along in here, and it drops off at least 6 feet down to our neighbor's property over here. I know that this camera doesn't give you good depth perception. Here's one of the elderberry plants here. The deer have chewed them off, but it's been a really dry season. But there's no evidence of water down in those areas anymore as a result of doing the sealing we had done. The roadway was probably only came out to about to here in the past, and this is all material that we filled in here, and then we made this a more gradual slope so I could get down in here and work with an excavator. You cannot take an excavator and turn it on an angle and do any work. It'll fall over as a result. You need to have it, the tracks facing straight up and down. There may be some footage that I captured with that camera over there on the coop of the pond area. But we came down, removed the snappers, removed the fish. The herons had already gotten a lot of the fish out of here. They've been going crazy. There aren't any fish in there right now. So we netted the remaining ones up and relocated them to other ponds. But now I'm stuck with a dilemma. What's the weather going to do? If we're going to have more drought, pump it out, lock the ducks up, and wait for the area to dry out so I can get down in there and seal these walls off much better than what they are. Well, that's a walk out there to look at Pond 5. I hope it makes sense. There will be videos, or there are videos that if you search for pond sealing, you'll see the paper products and cardboard material and the weeds and the produce from the gardens, all of those materials that we've been using to help seal the pond. By the breakdown products of that create sediment, and sediment is what seals ponds naturally. Not all places have clay, and not all not all nature brings in bentonite when there isn't clay there, and yet ponds work pretty darn well. So I'm using what we know about how nature does it when we got gravel systems, and it's worked on several other ponds on the property. But all the ponds are down low this year. I thought this was an ideal time to go ahead and lock the ducks up, drain out the remaining small amount of water that was in the pond, much less than what's there right now, and get the equipment down there and see if we can pack some of that material, the sediment, around the sides and seal it up a little bit better. Some of that sediment, even though it's packed on the sides, will work their way down back to the base of the pond, but some of it will remain up on the sides as well. And when you get a base of the sediment material there, more and more sediment will accumulate as the water level stays up and the vegetation moves in as well. So, and a lot of the vegetation ends up dying off. And the island, I forgot to show, I basically pulled all of the non-viable willows that were growing there, the maples that were growing in there, that were below water the last 2 years, and therefore they all died off, and I didn't want the roots penetrating into the roots of dead plants penetrating into the area and creating these obstacles where the ducks would have more of a hard time, because the raccoons swim out to the islands. Certainly the coyotes aren't afraid of going in the water. The foxes really don't like going in the water, but that's how we've lost birds in the past. So I probably will dig up some of the footage from one of the cameras out there. I did not wear a GoPro when I was doing these procedures. So busy this season and still not up to speed health-wise when I was doing these things, and I really don't, I need to focus when I'm on the excavator on a steep slope like that so that I don't get distracted and tip that bugger over. So we'll see what shows up in the next part of the video and all. So if you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, please refer to those other videos. I've answered lots of questions about the pond sealing in the past. Sorry about my ability to speak today, and since we got some rain, I got to get out there and get those blackberry plants set up, get some pruning done, get mowed around them, and get some more work done outside. Thanks so much for watching, folks. Stay safe, take good care of yourselves, grow some plants, grow some perennials if you don't want to put in a vegetable garden. Even this fall, you can pick up some perennial plants, whether it's raspberry, blackberry, elderberry, blueberry, whatever it is. Find a spot on your property or your friends or your family's property. Put in some plants, because that's an insurance policy for the future. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.